Stop fucking getting up!
Was
that on purpose now? Was that real?
No,
you gotta give me something.
I swear that
you swear that wasn't real? All
I
right.
swear that wasn't real. I was actually trying to fuck with you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Sit your ass down.
Sorry, buddy. That was fun. I actually thought in my head, I'm like, I'm not gonna do it today, and I promise that wasn't real. All right, are we in? Am I still in focus? Okay, cool.
You should be.
All right. So, Home Alone thoughts?
Yeah, what are your real thoughts on it? I like that to be the thing where it's like, as soon as after the reaction starts, we change personalities.
Yeah, man. So I have a lot of takes about this movie.
I just pull up a little plate. All of a sudden,
I hold it for you. Like I was like, all right, man, ready? No, I mean, kind of jumping off from what I said, like how this movie's always lived with me. It's so true. Like, just.
Did you own it on VHS?
Yeah,
me
yeah.
too.
And I think my dad showed it to me. And to give you guys some perspective, like, my dad was born and raised in India. And this movie just touches everyone. Like, everyone's seen this movie, even if no matter where you were born, it feels like you just always had this movie.
It's pretty universal.
Yeah, because, when I was a kid, like, you can see on this channel, I react to a lot of, like, childhood favorites. Like, I reacted to Goonies, Karate Kid, all this stuff.
Sure.
And a lot of that was because, like, because both my parents were born and raised in India, I didn't get the same movies that a lot of, like, American kids got growing up, or the same TV shows. I watched a lot of Bollywood movies. But there are a handful that always were there. Like, Jurassic Park is one, Home Alone is one. You'll just, like, those were always there.
Yeah. I think we all had those movies that were just, part of the general zeitgeist of your upbringing. Mm-hmm. I think, for me, it was definitely Home Alone. I don't want to keep mentioning this, but you know which one it's gonna be. Just bear with it. But Jingle All the Way is the other one for sure.
Yeah, I know.
I had that movie on VHS, and I watched that movie again and again as a kid.
You genuinely will start laughing every time you mention that movie. You get so giddy about it.
Yeah, that movie makes me happy.
We'll talk about it. But you and me privately will talk about it. No, okay, let's talk a little bit deeper about the movie, because we kind of barely brushed it, like, at the end of the reaction, but the church scene is kind of what you were getting started with.
Yeah. And I think, like, the second movie kind of does the same kind of thing.
Yeah, with the homeless, like, woman with the bird, the bird lady.
It was a bird lady, that's right, yeah. But I forgot what he says during that one, but either way, this isn't about the second one.
Just the first one.
But, I think it's just a very important scene, just because I think, like I already said just before, is that it does add, like, another texture to the movie that isn't just, like, this snarky childhood fantasy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It adds an actual heart to it, and that feels very related to the holiday season of, like, we all have that when we're, not even when we're kids, as adults especially, actually, that around the holiday time, you're like, oh, fuck, I gotta see my whole extended family, I gotta deal with them.
You gotta see that one uncle that you don't like, you gotta see, like, you got to be a part of that chaos, and you feel so small when you're part of that chaos. But, like, the old neighbor brings into perspective. It's just like, man, I don't even get to have that.
Yeah, he's like, I would kill to talk to my son right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think it just adds another element to it, even if it's for, it's obviously it's a kid's movie, but it gives it a nice deeper layer that makes it more universal for the whole family.
Also, I think what's special is that, like, usually these type of revelations of, like, oh man, my family was the most important thing, like the It's a Wonderful Life George Bailey thing, right? Those kind of revelations in movies usually happen to adults, where they've gotten all, like, old and cranky, like the Scrooge types, and then they realize what's important are the people around you, the people that love you, and making sure you maintain people and friendship. You don't usually see those type of revelations happening to kids in movies.
Sure, yeah.
And the fact that, like, there's such weighty scenes happening with Kevin McAllister where he's kind of being like, I would have anything to have my family back. You should call your father. And it doesn't come off as, like, precocious unnecessarily. Like, he doesn't seem like this annoying kid. You know how sometimes kids are written as adults in movies to be like, oh, look how quirky they are. Like, Kevin McAllister still feels like a child. He still jumps on a bed. He still eats a lot of ice cream.
And gets scared of random little burners in the basement.
But at the same time, he misses his family, and he shares that. And, like, you don't see both sides of that story told in movies that often.
Yeah, well, especially in the beginning, it's told very harshly. I said it during the reaction, but, like, he dies on the hill where he's like, no, I will not miss you if you guys were gone.
And
he just straight up says that multiple times.
And for the first couple of days, he really doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, he
he dances around.
He's having a blast. He's getting to order pizza when he wants to. He gets to trick these, like, burglars the way he wants to. And he's having the time of his life.
Yeah. You know what I remembered, like, halfway through shooting this reaction? Is we reacted to the reboot remake on Disney Plus. Like, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Like, I totally forgot about that.
Definitely a couple years ago. Yeah. Wow. I forgot about
Home
that.
Sweet Home Alone, yeah.
That was kind of the last, like, bad movie we reacted to.
Yeah.
Because we used to do a lot of the so bad it's good movies in our channel. That used to be the thing.
Neil Breen and Birdemic, Samurai Cop, Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
And Veronica.
And we didn't think of that Home Alone movie being the last one. But after that, we just, like, were more interested in...
Yeah.
You know, just doing what movies that we want to watch.
Yeah, for sure. You know, but it is just kind of weird to look back on. Because in the middle of reacting to this, I was like, oh yeah, we did a Home Alone movie a couple years ago.
Well, you know how you mentioned that, like, this movie, like, our patron lovingly mentioned that this movie is like a Die Hard for kids?
Yeah.
Well, I think, like, similar to Die Hard, it's a premise that's so strong that it makes sense why Home Alone has 9 sequels to it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, well, it's so good. Maybe we can do it again. Maybe we can capture that magic again. And Home Alone 2, I have a fondness for. But you have to look at that movie as like a sight gag movie.
Yeah. It's not like a properly serving sequel to Home Alone. It's kind of like just a reunion of the first one.
It's a great New York movie, I will say.
Sure, yeah.
So in that sense, it's good. It has a lot of stuff that is, like, exciting about it, like the Tim Curry aspect about it.
Rob Schneider.
Yeah. But I know Tim Curry was, like, a big standout in that movie.
Oh, yeah, he steals the show, for sure.
And when it comes to, like, the heart of it, it's just copying what the first one did.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, you can't really... It's like watching Hangover 2.
Yeah. There's some.
I like Hangover 2, but I mean, like, come on, it's just doing the same thing.
I remember the DVD VHS cover of Home Alone 2, like, freaked me out because on the newspaper. Remember how you can see the Statue of Liberty doing the pose?
Oh yeah.
As a little kid, when I was like probably like 6 or something like that, I remember it creeped me out. Just that picture. I just didn't like it.
Also, Harry and Marvin, the second one, are still really funny. I mean,
yeah.
They up it the notch in terms of gags, but still.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the joke, right? And the second one, Kevin just straight up becomes a mass murderer. He drops bricks on their heads from tall buildings and shit.
Yeah. But there's nothing, like, this movie's so perfect.
Yeah.
Like, I have no, I have no gripes to pick with
it. It delivers on exactly the premise, you know.
So strongly, too. I mean, like, we really didn't talk much about Macaulay Culkin, how good he is in this movie, but... I remember, like, listening to the Rewatchables episode on Home Alone. Rewatchables is a great podcast that I like, but they were talking about how Macaulay Culkin, after this movie came out, became, like, the most famous kid in America.
Oh, yeah, he blew the fuck up after this movie.
And I think Tom Felton, who plays Malfoy, talked about how, like, he was in New York one time, and everyone mistaked him for Macaulay Culkin. Everyone wanted his autograph, and everyone wanted... But it's just, like, Macaulay Culkin was so huge. And, it makes sense. He's so charming.
Yeah.
Like, he's so winning in this movie, and he tackles the balance so well of, like, being, like, a smart stinker of a kid versus also just being a very sincere child who is left alone.
Yeah, and his acting style is so like, quote-unquote, like, theatrical. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are some kid actors that just act like little adults. You know, and people are like, wow, that's good kid acting.
You can feel like they were very classically trained.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like a real kid. Like, real kids don't speak very enunciated. You know what I mean?
Even though Kevin McAllister does speak very clearly.
He speaks clearly, but he still sounds like a kid and talks like a kid. His delivery is not like an adult all the time. His dialogue is more adult.
I was about to say.
His delivery is not, though.
That's
what
true.
I'm saying.
Okay, that's a good point.
I'm not talking about the writing of the script. I'm talking about his actual, like, acting.
Because I was thinking about the mayor scene, right?
Yeah.
Like, the way he talks, and I'm like, oh, he pulls...
But he sounds like a kid trying to be an adult is the difference. You know
You're
what
right.
I mean?
You're right.
To me, at least, the way I experienced it. And, like, I think that's one thing that kind of critically separates him. Like, I think that's... For me, that's kind of a problem I occasionally have with some kid actors nowadays. They get such good, like, emotive kids where it's like, it feels like a little adult. I don't know how to describe it, but kids aren't that emotionally, like, vulnerable or developed all the time.
Right. And I think the last run of, like, really good kid actors was when the Stranger Things kids were, like, season 1.
Mm-hmm.
like when they were like actually kids.
Yeah.
I remember like when Stranger Things season 1 came out, everyone was like, where the hell did they come from?
Yeah.
They're like some of the best child actors ever. But that was like kind of the last time I remember like we were really taken away, because it's hard to pull off child actors. Also, child acting is one of the most insane things ever. You could get really fucked up by that. Macaulay Culkin is actually a great example of that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it can... being in a movie set and in that Hollywood environment for a kid is not healthy.
Yeah. Well, even like after the movie too. Like,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, being in that world.
And like, Macaulay Culkin's talked about that. Which, speaking of, that guy recently, like while we're shooting this, last week got his Hollywood star.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's really cool. And he's like married to Brenda Song.
Yeah.
And has a kid. He seems like he's having a great life.
Seems like he's doing well for himself now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good for him. But what are some other like Christmas movies that are on your regular rotation?
Man,
like yearly viewings that you feel like you're that are required.
Because I didn't celebrate Christmas growing up. Well, I mean, I still don't celebrate Christmas just because I was in we're raised in a different religion, religious household and stuff like that. I don't have like Christmas movies that besides Home Alone that I watched every December. Like, so like even Elf is a movie that like I watched it all as a kid, but I just watched whenever I wanted to watch it.
Sure, yeah.
So Home Alone is technically the only movie that I like religiously watched every December. And that's why it stands out. That's why it's so special to me.
Sure,
like even Die Hard, which is a reaction we did. Die Hard is a movie that I just watched whenever I wanted to watch it. It wasn't like a December watch for me, even though I almost screamed at our audience about how it's a Christmas movie.
But no, you did scream, just to be clear.
Yeah. But still, it was like... Yeah, I think Home Alone is the only traditional Christmas movie that I watched all the time during Christmas.
Sure, okay, cool.
How about you?
Mine are... I mean, kind of all of them.
Jingle All the Way, Home Alone.
Jingle All the Way, Home Alone, Elf for sure,
right?
And A Christmas Story are probably like the big ones for me. And now I think It's a Wonderful Life. Since we watched it last year, I watched it again in preparation for our podcast. And I'm like, I'm going to watch this every year now.
Yeah, It's a Wonderful Life has definitely been added to, I think, both of our rotations now.
Speaking of which, I mean, Die Hard's also on my list that I try to watch yearly too.
Okay, that's smart, yeah.
Speaking of which, you mentioned...
I don't know why I said that's smart. I'm like, good job.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I don't know.
But you just mentioned how one of our patrons said that Home Alone's Die Hard for kids.
I wish we knew his... Like, forget his name.
Yeah, we'll pop it up. We'll pop up his name for sure. But it is cool. I remember when I was going to school for like screenwriting, and I think I told you about this already, so forgive me. But just for our listeners, they might find this interesting, is that the concept of Die Hard, and if you go back even further, like I mentioned during the reaction, High Noon, and that classic kind of one person against all odds, right? In usually in an enclosed setting, right? That's usually the classic thing. Die Hard on a bus, or Die Hard in here. It's a very American structure of storytelling, because I think just Americans value that, like just one dude kicking ass.
Yeah, you're an everyday guy.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting how that was. I mean, people even consider like fucking 12 Angry Men, like High Noon in a jury duty room.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great call.
But it is funny, Home Alone kind of is that structure for sure for kids.
And I never thought about it that way until our patron brought it up. And then I remember looking it up, and like, so a lot of other people have said that take too before. So it's just like, wow, that's a great call.
Hell yeah. I know. This is fun though. I like doing this rewatch for the video. I'm hoping you guys like it too. Like I said, we do plan to prioritize first time watchings for sure. We're not just gonna flip our whole channel, load out.
Yeah, and let me just throw out my coined phrase now to a peek behind the curtain. It'd be funny if that became a thing. We like start selling T-shirts.
A peek behind the curtain. There's a little cartoon of you, like,
dude, that's like a good idea.
Only if people like it, If you want us to make a peek behind the curtain shirt, tell us.
You're weird. I'm just kidding.
And then buy it.
No, what I was going to say is that, right now, like, we don't know how these rewatch reactions are doing, because we haven't, during the time of shooting this, we haven't even uploaded our Die Hard reaction yet.
Yeah, no, it's in the editing process still.
So right now, it's still up in the air how, like, these rewatch reactions are going to be received.
It's up in there if this video is even going to be out before Christmas, you know what I mean? At the rate we upload.
I know, right? It's a really tight deadline, but, we'll see. Hopefully... Hopefully people enjoy them, and if people do, we'd love to keep this a tradition, because unfortunately Chris and I have seen a lot of the classic Christmas movies.
Yeah.
And I know, to be clear, I know there's more Christmas movies that we haven't seen. I know
There's
you guys
plenty.
I know you guys are already ready to comment, "Oh, a Miracle on Blank Street."
34th, by the way.
Sorry. But, you know, we also like rewatching Christmas movies. And
Yeah, it's what people do around the holidays, right?
Right, 100%. So that's why we were like, okay, maybe we can still revisit these classics, but do what we usually do, which is just rewatch them on our own.
And then we'll podcast on the ones we feel like podcasting on, which, you know, and next year if you want to react to Elf even after we dropped a podcast on, I don't give a fuck, let's do it.
Yeah, it depends on what people want and if people are excited about it. Are you good to wrap up?
Yeah, I'm good to wrap up. Let's do it.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys are enjoying your holidays and this after the reaction. We really appreciate it. Stay nice, dudes.